so I muted it.
Okay, should be fine if it's muted.
Okay, turn it down to 0 and then
There you
mute
go.
it.
Belt and suspenders.
Exactly. So, okay, I think we can start. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Harvey, I'm the Chairman of the Board of Water and Sewerage. I'm joined by my fellow board member, Christian Carpenter. Tonight, this is a presentation and public feedback on, it's actually a rate hearing for the Medfield Board of Water and Sewerage. Specifically, it's about the water and sewer rates that have been proposed by the board and that have been accepted by the Enterprise Committee. And as part of the process is this public hearing. I have a couple slides to explain what this process is all about. And then we'll get into the actual, how the budget was, put together and how we manage it, and then how we went about setting the rates. And then at the end, we'll be taking questions regarding this presentation. I expect us to, this will last maybe about a half an hour, tends to last about a half an hour. At about 7:30 or anytime after this, this public hearing, we will also move into a normal Board of Water Sewerage board meeting. So that means that questions that we'll be entertaining will be specifically about the rates and how we came to these rates for this fiscal year. And then other business we'll handle in the Board of Water and Sewerage meeting that follows this immediately. So I'll be presenting the rate process. What are some of the rate objectives? What are some of the confines, the boundaries and challenges from a fiscal and a regulatory perspective? I'll give just a brief outlook on both infrastructure systems for water and sewerage, and then also a presentation of the proposed rates. So to refresh everyone's memory, the town provides water and sewage services. The services are chosen by individual customers. Some residents do not choose them, and they have their own water supply or their own sewage disposal systems. The water and sewage staff are employed by the town, but their expenses for running both of these systems are allocated to segregated water and sewerage enterprise funds. So essentially, the costs of the employees for the town to build or to maintain and provide services for these two services is allocated specifically to the customers that pay for them. And lastly, that these enterprise funds, these accounts, are not funded by the town general fund. So here's a simple block diagram of the rate setting process. Before the end of the year, there is a capital project and an operating budget that is set up toward the end of the year. It goes through a series of iterations and machinations as part of the overall town budget process. Once those become finalized, they're approved through the annual town meeting. And it's from at that point that we have our costs for capital projects as well as the operating budget that are put into a financial model. We use this financial model to try to hold the enterprise fund level fairly constant. We have to deal with some variations of costs and also variations in demand for services. And from there, we recommend the rates for both water and sewerage. From the board, it goes to the enterprise fund, the enterprise committee, actually. The enterprise committee is composed of the water and sewerage board members as well as members of of the town itself, such as accounting and the town administrator. And here we're at this point here, it's a public hearing where we're sharing with you the rates for the next fiscal year, and we are entertaining some questions. And after that, we will establish the rates and promulgate them and put them into force. So the objective of the rates is what we do is we look at the investments that are required to maintain services and the operational needs for the next fiscal year, and actually several years out. We have about we have a debt plan that goes out for 20 years, and then a normal operating plan we look at about 10 years. And as part of the normal budgeting process for the town, every year we submit a 5-year plan so that the town has the visibility of the capital projects 5 years out every year. In general, the rates are set so that we generate the revenue to cover both the fixed costs and the variable costs. And we shoot for trying to maintain a free cash balance to deal with uncertainties, especially around water. And in both accounts, we try to maintain about $1 million in each of these funds. So let me describe a couple of the boundaries and challenges that we have. So these accounts are operated independently. We don't move money or transfer money between them. And the funding for these services come from individual customers, as I mentioned earlier. On the water side, there's we have some particular boundaries and challenges that there's a limit to how much water that can be pumped out of the ground due to permitting by the Massachusetts DEP. We have wells that come from two different watersheds, and each of the pumps have their own permits, and then what comes out of each watershed has different permits, and they all roll up to one big massive permit that drives how much water that we can utilize as a town. And so that ultimately can put in a constraint for how much water can be sold. There also is a variation of water demand, and sometimes some unexpected costs. Water mains break. It happens occasionally. There sometimes is a variation in demand, whether it's just natural variation or it's something that is restricted because of, say, drought restrictions. So what this means is it sort of drives the need to make sure that we have a sufficient cash balance to cover fixed costs. So essentially, you can think of these enterprise funds as literally a rainy day fund. If it rains a lot, we're not selling a lot of water, but we have costs that have to be recovered, whether it rains or not. And then lastly, the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection has rules and guidelines that drive many of our investments and operating methods, such as the treatment methods, driving the efficiency of water use and how well we achieve their efficiency targets, and also right down to staff operations from both a licensing and manpower. So I've got a couple of splashy slides here. This one is just a review on how much water that we sell, going all the way back to, I went back to 2013. And the first thing that pops out at you is the blue bar, and that's the residential use. So if you look at the 2020, about 92% of the water that is sold is actually sold for residential use. And then to a much more minor degree to commercial, industrial, and municipal nonprofit. So a few points about the outlook of both systems. As you saw on the last slide, the water demand is actually been fairly steady through the years, which is good from a revenue planning perspective. We do have a new filtration project, and that's going to increase the water quality. That project was approved at the annual town meeting, and I have a couple, one or two slides to go over that. This is the largest project by a dollar figure that either of these two funds have engaged in. What's good is that currently the project financing appears to be, favorable. The interest rates from U.S. Treasuries to even through the municipal lines, this is actually a pretty good time to do a project of this type. Some other things, we have a new metering program. There are something like, about 70%, 60-70% of the residential meters have been replaced, something of that sort. And that's going to allow us to get data on a more continuous basis so that, we can, spot leaks in certain sectors, or hopefully in the future we can have, higher frequency in the billing so that at least customers can see how much water that they're using in a real-time basis. And that project is ongoing and probably won't be finished for the next 10 or 12 months, something like that. On the sewer side, we do have some capital projects to reduce what we call I&I, which is ingress and inflow. Basically, it's naturally occurring water that's in the ground that finds a small crack in a sewer line, and it goes into the sewer line, and it turns out that the sewage system has to process that. That's not good to have, so we're looking for those I&I leaks, and we have a program to do that, and we have capital projects in this year and the next year as well planned. And the sewage plant is making strides in its operational efficiency, because it's not very easy to run a wastewater treatment system when you have an unexpected flow of water that's coming in, whether it's the Super Bowl and everybody's flushing their toilets at the same time, or if you have in the springtime where we have this I&I problem that kind of pops up sometime. The solar project continues to provide steady income. I think we have about 6 or 7 more years left on the state revolving the SRAC program. And there are some operating costs such as sludge disposal and chemical costs that are really not within the department's control. And there are some inflationary pressures traditionally, especially in the sludge disposal for the sewage operating system. So the water filtration project I mentioned earlier, it's a project where we're required to put it in by the Massachusetts DEP. It's to remove a very trace amount of manganese in the water that's actually in wells 3. And we're using this opportunity to redevelop well number 3 for higher instantaneous capacity. The project is currently estimated about $11.5 million, and as inside of the 11.5, we're carrying a $1.5 million in contingency. The construction started a couple of weeks ago, and it's scheduled to be completed and online in February of 2023. So this is a collection of charts. The green is looking at the revenue on those 2 top charts, and for the water and the sewage revenue. And then the bottom charts that have the blue and the gray, that's for the expenditure side. So this is just an example to show that, especially if you look at the expenditure side for water in the fiscal 2022 that you see me circling here with my cursor here, this is where our expenses go up, and this is the debt for the water filtration project. So this box here, this light blue, is going to be consistent marching out in time for a 20-year period. So what else I wanted to show here? There is some variation that you see here on the expenditure line under these bottom charts for both water and sewage. It turns out that In some years, we have some capital projects, we pay for them out of the free cash. That's because, that's where we have it. It's also an inexpensive cost of capital. If the project turns out to be large and it's difficult to sort of swallow that over a 1 or 2 year period, then we look to go out and finance that using municipal bonds. So what you're seeing here are some of this fluctuation with you'll see in fiscal 2021, there was capital projects, basically a lot of the engineering and sort of the pre-construction engineering side of the water filtration plant we did out of free cash. You'll see that our fixed non-debt projects, our capital projects will go down lower as we move forward. But this light blue is basically lion's share of that is the new debt for the filtration project. And up in the revenue line here, you see the water rates. The next lightest color is the other fees, connection fees. It turns out to be a minor part, but it does help. And this dark cap here are just transfers to make sure that we are covering expenses during that year. So that's what this dark green bar is here. What does this look like, and how do we use this information? So we have these 3 squiggly lines. The blue line is the revenue line. The red line is the total expenditure line for that fiscal year. And the free cash line is the green line, and that's the one we have our eye on all the time. Essentially, what we try to do is we try to modulate the rates and the income so that the free cash is hovering right around $1 million. Now you can see this is the water rate model, and you can see that in fiscal 18 and 19 we had expenditures were and the revenues were not lining up just right, and the free cash was going down during that period, but we're able to recover that in fiscal 20 and 21. So the fiscal 22 line is where we are here, and you can see where we're trying to get back to this $1 million figure and hold it there in time. We take the same approach with the sewerage model, where we have the revenue line in blue, the red line in the expenditures is in red, and the free cash here. You can see here that in 20 we came down with things that we were spending money on, but we were able to sort of level that out. And you shouldn't really look at the difference between the red and the blue to get to the green, because there is a difference between recognized cash and appropriations. So when we looked at these models, in order to flatten them out that way, we ran the model for both sewerage and water, and we came up with rate increases that kept those free cashes at about $1 million for the foreseeable future. So what the board proposed and what was accepted by the enterprise committee was an increase to the water rates of 4% for this billing year, and then for sewerage would be an increase of 3%. Now, what's striking about this chart here, obviously you'll see that the rates for blue have gone up the last couple of years, and we planned it that way. We knew that we were getting into this water project. We knew it was going to be a $10 to $12 million size-ish sort of project. And so we made a conscious decision not to crank the rates up, as soon as the project was awarded, because we knew that this project had to be done. It was a compulsory project, and we were spending the money to accomplish that. So we had line of sight to what we had to do with the rates in the rate tool. And so we brought the rates up 5% and then 10% and 12% the last 3 years, so that now that we're coming into this project, the rates will actually seem, more normal, the 3 to 4% range. To sort of summarize, for the fiscal '22 rate changes approved by the Enterprise Committee, and these are for rates that are effective April 1st of 2021 billing period, is a rate change across all tiers for water at plus 4% and for sewerage services plus 3%. So I think that's the end of the presentation. If we have questions.
We don't have any questions, I think. We can wait a couple of minutes, I guess, but it seems like we can probably conclude the hearing.
Hey, let's give them a minute, maybe they're typing.
Give them a second to think.
They're thumbing it.
I can relate.
Is there anything you wanted to cover?
No, you covered it. Nothing bad.
All quiet?
And one of them was Georgia.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, do we need a motion to conclude the hearing?
Motion, yeah.
I'll move
Yeah.
to conclude the hearing.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hearing's concluded. Okay. We got 6 minutes to the next one.
I want to grab a drink of water. Water bottle or something like that.
There's the sink, but there might be something in the fridge for a small bottle if you want something like that. Are we off?
Tell her to think low.
Bill, just a clarification on the MXU replacements. That the supply is very scarce, and we're not looking to getting in. We only got a small order in, which we're using to do final billing and everything else. We have that available, so we really can't do any push to get these
Great. Might as well go live with this. Okay, cool. Welcome, everyone. This is the September 8th, 2021 meeting of the Board of Water, Medfield Board of Water and Sewerage. My name is Bill Harvey, and my fellow board member, Christian Carpenter, is to my right. One second. Okay. Okay, so call this meeting to order. So for those of you who joined us earlier, we had a public hearing, presented the proposed changes to the water rates for April 1st, 2021 billing period. The increase to water, one second, brain freeze here. Increase to water is going to be 4%, was proposed by the board at 4%, and 3% for sewerage, and that was presented to the Enterprise Fund Committee, and it was, those rates were accepted by that committee. So the first order of business by this board is to accept and set forth those rates.
I'll
Any
make a
commentary?
motion.
Make a motion?
I think we've talked about it more than enough.
Okay, lay it out.
So I'll move that we adopt a new water rate with an increase of 4% across all tiers for the billing rate that was effective in April of this year. And for sewer, a new rate with an increase of 3% across all tiers, same period.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. So, we have some meeting minutes and some, gosh, I feel like Mr. Magoo today. Can't get my piles straight. Sorry about that.
I didn't get to the meeting minutes.
Okay,
So I'd ask that we just table that for the next meeting.
okay, that's fine.
Had an upset condition in the Carpenter household this week and a half, but
Okay, that's
through
fine.
me.
I can note for the record that we already did pass the May 2021 minutes. As a matter of fact, the fact that we did that was also captured in the 1621. So we don't have to, you don't have to do the 2020 May.
Okay,
That one's already done.
all right.
I saw nothing.
Want these, Christian?
No, I've got them, I just didn't
Okay.
just look at them. Thank you.
Yeah, and we can cover the other ones. The one that was for the last board meeting, I did mark up quite a bit. But that's okay. 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 So we actually had no holdover actions from the last meeting. Let's see it here. Last meeting was basically just the rate setting. In the meeting before that, these were all closed out. We posted the meeting minutes. We got the sample report from Woodward and Curran and environmental partners on the rhythm. That was done. And we reviewed the project list and the prioritization. We did talk about that. That'll come up again in a couple more months.
Worked with Nick already. We're ready to go with the capital as far as to present it.
Mhm.
And we had a capital meeting this morning on the general fund side. So next meeting, if you want to bring that on, I'll
Yeah.
have that for you.
Yeah, and I think by the next meeting, we'll have the bond. We'll know how close, how good of a profit we were in guessing what the interest rate's going to be. Okay. So we're tabled the minutes, but we don't need to do the 20th May since that was already done. Holdover, that was complete, there are none. So point number 4 is update on the filtration project from Mo. We did get the
Got a
flow of
bunch of
information
yeah.
that's coming through there.
So I just kind of say the highlights of what's going on with the project.
Yeah, I think you had a possible change order to
For
talk about.
relocation of part of the sewer main.
That was done.
So we're waiting for a proposal from the general contractor for that relocation. The sewer force main is installed right now from Stephen Lane on Elm Street. They wanted to get that done before school started. which is really good. They were moved right along. It's in the shoulder on Elm Street, on the school, Wheelock School side, out to the fire entrance, down that shoulder near the parking lot, all the way to the gate, past the gate, and that's where it's stopped right now, but it's away from all the activities that are going on at the school, which is great. So now we're just waiting for a proposal from BizCo to relocate part of that main, and they're doing a great job, I think, so far. I mean, they're really quick. Right now, they got all the grubbing done at the treatment plant site. The tree removal, stump removal, everything's cleared. So they are moving along. Now we're waiting for all the equipment to be coming in for the construction. They got the construction fence up, the signage up. We're trying to keep the residents, dog walkers, just to keep everybody safe out of that construction area, at least until the first phase is over, when all a lot of activity goes on down there. So we talked to the selectmen. They agreed to close it off for the time being until we get and revisit it sometime this winter. So, but it looks good right now. We had that first meeting with them yesterday, and was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday, right? This morning. Oh boy, it feels like yesterday. It went well. We had to do it by Zoom, so we're moving along.
So how are communications with the Wheelock School Administration handled? Is there someone from Wheelock invited to the construction meetings, or?
They're on the distribution list to get all the information. BizCo, the general contractor, is looking for a separate construction entrance on the far parking lot, an 8-foot entrance where they would fence it off and just have construction trucks go in and out, so they're not interfering with any of the activities of the school. We're just waiting for the.
But isn't that where the main was put down?
Yeah, but it's just going to be on top. The main's 5 feet, 5 feet down.
Right.
So they're waiting for a decision to be made to allow the delivery trucks to go in and out, or else if the deliveries come in, there's a lot of one-ways and do not enters, and they're afraid that they're going to be going towards the schools when they move away, and they're trying to keep everything away from the school. So we'll see if they wanted to see what the first days were like, to see what kind of traffic they're up against, and to see if it would be.
That's also where a lot of the parking is. When people come in, they park right there, right?
Yes, but they still have enough parking there's a whole, the middle section.
That whole
and-
grassy area?
Yeah,
they
yeah.
park on
So
that,
this, they're gonna be, if you're facing the field, it's gonna be to the far left.
I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't know if it's reasonable, but because if you have people who are if we're counting on that capacity, but if people sort of wall it off with the initial cars, you won't get in there unless people have a little ingenuity and come in through the road. And
I think it's
You know what I
concerned
mean?
more about the construction activity, that they don't know where to go. And if they come in and they see all the signage, that they're gonna be, going.
no, I recognize that, but I'm talking about after hours.
All right.
Saturday, my daughter has a home game,
Right.
9:00.
So those are all taken off on the weekends. So
They
it's
are,
it's
okay.
just during construction activity from 7 to 5. And after that, everything gets taken down.
Okay.
So people are able to move around and things.
Mhm.
Is there anything that we need to do or to be part of a discussion to support you in?
Not at this point. I know the permanent planning and building committee have taken an active role in this, and they're gonna be sending a liaison to the committee as well. But it's, just keep feeding you the information. You're on the distribution list, to get all the information. And
Mhm.
if you see something that you think that needs to be discussed, absolutely, we'll flag it.
Is there a decision point on the calendar for this issue?
I think they're just waiting for the school to,
I mean, does a contractor need to know by a day, and does the
He's
school know
asking
that?
as soon as possible, because they're gonna start bringing in material, so probably by next week, they'd like to have an answer.
All right, we should probably,
We've contacted the school
Okay.
administration, and they're in,
at some point, we got to give them a date.
Yeah.
So, you know, okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else regarding the project? No?
Not at this point. As soon as construction starts, I'm sure things will get active. We've met with the SCADA people to discuss not only the project there, but also the project, you know, what we're working on through our upgrades, which will affect, which would be enhanced by this project. So we're not really talking about the project itself, but it's things that they're gonna be doing at Station 3 and 4. The wells, the treatment plant will help our system out.
Great.
Things that we planned on for upgrades gets cut down because of this project.
Just we can roll it all in. Yeah,
You're right.
that's good.
Okay. All right, the next one, year-to-date pumping. Can I put this up there? Okay.
Sure.
So this is the chart of the pumping year-to-date, which we follow. The bright red line is 2021. You can see that we are tracking below the previous year, which is 2020, but still higher than 2019. We'll see what it's like when people are back from wherever, the Cape, and realize their lawns are green or not as green as they want them to be. So, but it is, you know, less than the previous year. But, you know, we've seen some years where it's picked up, like in, you know, 2020 and 17, those lines picked up some volumes along the way. Any,
No, I think we're tracking well.
yeah, okay. So let's go over the year-to-dates. Year-to-date expenses, that's what I meant to say.
We're about 19% through the year. If you look at it by the days, water's tracking at 15%. I believe it's 20% for sewer. So we're right in the ballpark, and as you know, we're not exactly percentage-wise departments. It's a little more fluid, so, but we're right in that general ballpark. I don't see anything that's sticking out at this point. I think we had a, you know, we did well with the budget last year. I think we were 97.7% through the operating budget in water.
I don't think I got the right information.
There should be two files that Tracy
Yeah.
had sent.
Look, it's a report that was ran on the 3rd, and it has the year-to-date expense at 97%, and the electricity year-to-date is 181,000.
The year to date.
Sounds high for year to date, doesn't it?
Or is this for,
One is the title of the attachments. There's one that's FY '21 and one.
Yeah,
that's
there's
FY
two
22.
separate
They
ones.
Okay.
both have the same-
all right, so that's,
It's like a third date on it.
okay, got it. My bad, okay.
So electricity for the
Oh,
year
you're
to
right,
date, we're
you're
at
right.
21.2%.
Yep. Oh, it's, you know, that's great to have both of those in one.
So 97.7% in water use for the budget, and 97.8% on the sewer side. So we, you know, used everything up, but it's
Planned well.
it, it
Yeah,
planned well.
and you managed well. Let's, you, we can help guide and set things, but you run the department, so good job.
Thank you. Don't see anything that's, it's too early to tell right now. We're, like I said, we're only 19% through the year, but we'll see how things pan out. Usually when we have large expenses at one time, so it fluctuates. It goes up real high, then it comes down because of the next payment's not gonna be till the next month, so. But we look like we're in good shape.
Is electrical on the high side because it's not showing the offset?
Right, that revenue comes in on the backside. We still get it in the revenue, but it doesn't go back into the line item, so it does.
Right. I guess I'm just trying to, if we have a budget 124,600 for sewerage electricity,
Mhm.
and it shows that year-to-date, we've paid 37.3. The cost of the costs.
Yeah, for sewer, I have.
Because if it's an offset, then that would be offset, but it's not. It's a revenue, and we're showing that on the revenue line, right, Nick?
Yeah, it does not offset that line, it's a separate
Right.
revenue.
Right. So I'm just wondering if we actually have the right budgetary figure in electricity on a cost basis. You see what I mean?
Yeah, so we get those costs monthly, so it's higher at some points, it levels off, and it goes high again. So we just have to keep an eye on it and adjust. I mean, the budget period's coming up again to kind of change things around, so.
You get, municipal, commercial rates or something like that. How does the cost per kilowatt hour change across
It
the season?
changes through by seasons, it does change. During some years, the cost per kilowatt hour rises up, but.
Our challenge is more on it's not so much, the kilowatt hour for supply is set, it's been set since 2018 and it's steady through 2022 at 0.974.
0.09?
9.74 cents a kilowatt
Okay.
hour, and then it'll drop down for a year to 8.8 cents a kilowatt hour on the supply side. Where the
Transmission.
treatment plant incurs greater costs on the demand side because it's subject to a lot more demand charges for industrial rates. So our supply is steady,
Mhm.
and the supply is offset by the solar, by whatever is generated there. That is reduced because we use that supply. So we use less electricity because of the solar, but we pay, our demand costs are pretty high. And in addition, with the solar, we get revenue for the SRECs. Those will go away in about 6 more years. So there's a few different
Right.
components there.
So is there something we can do to manage the demand charges? I mean,
It's-
that's a time of day thing, right?
Yeah, it's just kind of if your peak usage is high during the peak time of day, you just have more demand charges. Our schools do, the wastewater treatment plant does. Having solar helps because during the day, if the treatment plant is going, it'll reduce our demand charges because we're taking the energy from the solar first before we turn to the grid. So
Do we
having
need
that there is
energy
helpful.
storage? Would that pay for itself in your experience?
Eventually.
It could. It's an option. I've never seen an energy storage project go in solely to manage demand charges. There's usually something else in the economics, in my experience, so. But
Okay.
it's worth looking at it. But I don't think that sole issue would be enough for it to pay.
Yeah, I don't know if the demand charge chain was different at different times of the day. I know some of my industrial customers, they have 5 or 6 different rates depending upon the
Right.
time of day and then the summer.
No, that's what, if you have battery storage, you can rely on it to reduce your demand charges, but that solar installation isn't huge. Battery storage is not required on the bigger solar installations. I mean, it's not even required for the new school, because solar will be part of that project, but they may or may not have battery storage depending on the.
Well,
So
it's,
you can
yeah.
put an independent battery storage system in
right,
if it makes sense, but
okay.
we'd have to look at it. It depends a lot on the demand charges and the difference between, like, at some point, you're gonna have to recharge those batteries too, so.
And how did we do last year in electrical?
What about, the other one on the sewer was, I noted that chemicals were running a little bit high. I am assuming that's just the function of when we got the last invoice versus,
Right. Like I said, we
but
get the chemicals in once, we pay it once, and we don't get it for a little while, so it's
right,
it's
so,
big.
so
It's an over, and then it's under, and then it's over again.
we're not incurring higher usage or anything like that?
Not
Nothing
at
out of the
this
ordinary?
point. I mean, we had a couple issues with the I&I that we had to treat more, so more chemicals is going through, but, you know, it wasn't as bad this time as it has been in the past. So we do expect during the year, we have those fluctuations that we will, you know, incur more costs, but like I said, with our upcoming budget season, we will try to, you know, those are the two issues that we've had in the last few years, has always been the chemicals and the electricity costs that have been issues. Everything else seems to be in line.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else on there?
No. Last year, we did go over on the electrical by 11% in sewage, so, but it's not, it all came in lower. Just that, you know, what we, a few years ago, well, these categories didn't look like this about 5 or 6 years ago. So we needed to break them out so we can see them as a line item and then manage the category and then, you know, see what the trend is in year over year. I say that because, you know, now we're able to see the data a little bit better. And, you know, when we go for the next budget cycle, we just want to make sure that, you know, the money is there for you to run your department. And actually, and also, you know, one part that, you know, drives this is actually I&I.
Right.
You know, if you're processing water that really shouldn't be in our pipes, you know, that's more energy that's incurred by all the systems, you know, throughout.
I'd love to say it's just some leaks, and we'll find the leaks and fix those areas, but, you know, it could be in sump pumps, it could be in, you know, a
Sure.
bunch of different things. So
Yep, yep.
It's hard to control it all right now. But
Yep. Okay. I have a couple things. One is we need to schedule the next meeting where the first order of business will be the meeting minutes.
Well, that was a shot.
That's all right.
I'll get them back later.
Yeah. We were invited to a selectmen meeting next week.
To discuss
PFAS.
Yeah, PFAS, right. I don't think there's anything to talk about other than that the numbers seem to be similar in each of the sampling points from the previous data.
A little higher on 1 and 2, but we haven't got, no, August, it's like a 3-week turnaround for what we're experiencing, so. But right now, we're only doing monthly samples for the next 2 months. October will be the next quarterly sample,
Mhm.
but, so 1, 2, and 3 are the 3 wells that we have to do on a monthly basis.
1, 2, and 3? Why 3?
I'm sorry, the 3?
Yeah, 3,
Yeah,
because
3.
it triggered, it was
It's
over
triggered
10 the first time.
before, when we first started, it was 15, so that was.
3 did?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
I didn't remember that.
But it's been non-detect.
It's been non-detect since, but because it went over 10, it's on the list
Yeah,
until they give us freedom to take it off.
I don't feel very good about, well, let's let more data points,
We need more data points.
yeah,
But
that's right,
once-
exactly.
Once you hit any levels,
Yep.
DEP takes it as vital, so.
Yeah, and what is so we have to sample monthly for well number 3, and the other ones that have triggered, And how long does it,
Over 10, less than 20.
over 10, less than 20? And how long do we have to do that?
There is no definite one that says that after 6 months you can take it off. It's when DEP feels it's allowable to take it off. They'll decide on that. So we'll have to do it for quite a while before they feel confident to take it off.
Okay.
So right now we are non-detect in 3 and 4. At times we're non-detect in well 6. The only ones that have consistency is 1 and 2. And those 1, 2, and 3 are all on the monthly sampling list.
Okay. Yeah, Nick, what's the buzz?
So I think, and it's something I mentioned before, is now that the federal funding has come through and water infrastructure is one of the places that it can be spent with no real strings attached. So I think the selectmen wanted to hear PFAS is a place we should look at. Should we carve out some money? A lot of other communities are, but a lot of other communities are in a different position than Medfield is. The other thing is that there is a concern that if 1 and 2 keep creeping up, and if it goes over 20, it's got to be a town-wide message to every water user saying we're over 20, the water is unsafe, don't drink it. So it's part education, part as we think about that federal money, should we be planning in our spending plan for water infrastructure? I know we talked about some of the water main projects, but the selectmen are interested in hearing about PFAS specifically.
Yeah, well, what I think would be helpful is if we, put together well, not put together, I think we need to lean on the resources that describe what PFAS is. And, the question is, how did we get here? Sort of, these are contaminants that have been in the water, in all water bodies, in a lot of other places for, a number of years, and there is no federal standard. And there's only, I think, maybe 10 or 12 states that actually have a program to measure or to promulgate some sort of treatment. So it's certainly not widespread throughout the United States on an action level. It's not an action level on a federal level. And Massachusetts is a little bit more stringent compared to, if you look at all of the other states that actually are measuring or are promulgating treatment. It is on the more active side of it, and there's even more. So everyone's very sciencey now after COVID, I think. But people are looking more at the data itself, and it's not a from a public policy perspective, it certainly has not coalesced to a single voice or a single charge ahead nationwide. This is what we're doing across all the whatever hundreds of PFAS derivatives. So the fact that we have 1 and 2, that makes it one type of thing to get our arms around because the data is consistent in that place. Doesn't seem to be, 3 is that consistent yet.
Right.
So, but setting money aside, I'm not sure how that program, what that's like. Are we gonna need to create some supporting study in order to create an estimate for them to put into this, or?
So that's part of what the conversation.
Because it's all presumption, because it presumes that it presumes that we will have to treat it. It presumes that there is a trend enough for it. It presumes that
Well, it presumes that you know what the treatment level is gonna have to be. You don't even know.
That's right.
If you're at 25, what do you have to get down to have an effective treatment? Do you have to get down to 10? Do you have to get 5?
Yeah, in
That
Massachusetts, what they do is they basically look for, said, okay, there's a lot of them, let's analyze these 6, and then we take the analysis, and then take the sum of that, and that's called the PFAS 6. So this is not, they're not looking at it for individual ones. It's their analytical method of saying, all right, these are the ones that in Massachusetts we are going to manage and we feel are important. Then they analyze for them, and then to create a sum, because they will most likely have different, effects or non-effects, but that they just use it as sort of a full number, and that 10 to 20 is the number that they're using. So it's, that's their methodology, and that's how they chose to do it. So what I'm getting at is that I'm not sure what the method is for, earmarking funds like that for a project like this. I'm trying to figure out what they're trying to get out of us.
Yeah, no, I think it's like I said, it's partly we've had to start doing testing. We're publishing those results, letting people know. So just kind of a little background on what's going on with PFAS in Medfields, that we've been below the contaminant level. Concern if 1 or 2 were to trip, then we're sending out notifications to people about their water required by Mass DEP. So in all of that, if there is anything more that we can be doing in terms of ensuring that money is available to the board if it needs it to take next steps or to take preliminary steps at looking at 1 and 2, if that's where.
So it can be engineering dollars.
Right.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, the
Feasibility study.
the federal funds are basically anything that you could get other federal money for water projects. You can use this money directly for water projects. There are a lot of strings attached to other stuff, but water, sewer, and broadband are basically. There are
So
no
is
strings
this
attached.
is this from the drinking water state revolving fund,
This
or
is
is this
the-
a grant?
this is
Here's your money.
This is the Biden stimulus money that comes to Medfield. We've received received $650,000. We're going to receive another $650,000 at the end of this fiscal year for a total of 1.3, and then the Norfolk County has an additional 2.5 million that's earmarked for Medfield as well. So it's a total of about $3.8 million that's coming to Medfield through the federal stimulus program. A lot of program rules, where there are the least program rules are where it comes to water and sewer infrastructure, where the money is the town of Medfield's to do what it wishes on water and sewer infrastructure.
Good to understand. Thank you.
Sure.
What's the name of that program?
So it's it's called ARPA, American Recovery.
It's all right.
I don't know.
I'm just
ARPA is the
looking
acronym.
for a handy
It's
acronym. thing.
it's the big Biden stimulus that was approved.
ARPA or
ARPA.
2 A's or
ARPA will
silent
be it,
H?
yeah.
Okay, ARPA.
And I can, I'll send you a link. The U.S. Treasury has all the information about it on their website, so I can send you that link with an indication of where the water and sewer compensation piece of it is.
And so the selectmen see this as one of maybe several projects that would.
Correct. We've already set aside some of it for some of our capital for this year under a different umbrella within the program, but there is this other bucket of, there's another umbrella where we can put it towards water sewer infrastructure. And we have a long time horizon to spend it by 2024, so it's not, that's the other benefit of it. It's not, there's not a deadline coming up fast.
Calendar
It's
25,
24.
spent by calendar 24?
Correct.
That's right around the corner.
But it's ARPA, not to be confused with AARP.
I've been getting stuff from them for years. No, because if
No,
we're
in
going
terms of
to,
engineering projects, yeah, it's not, it's sooner, but it's not like it has to be spent this fiscal year. I just want to clarify that.
Okay.
2024. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna read up some more on PFAS stuff,
Yeah.
but
Should be interesting reading.
yeah, no, I know of some resources, stuff, I've been reading it. I mean, there's, the truth of it, there's only a couple ways to deal with this particular thing. One is you absorb it, and then the media that's absorbed in that, and the PFAS gets carted away to some other place for destruction.
Carbon filtration that they're talking about with the activated carbon to remove
Yeah.
PFAS components. Like you said, there's thousands of the PFAS components. But I think it's a good avenue to have available to, you know, we hate to shut any wells down that we're trying to diversify the wells now with the treatment plant and everything else. We hate to shut down 1 and 2 if they have become to that level. Hopefully they don't, but I mean, if they do, it's a great avenue to have in your back pocket.
Do we want to set a date for our next meeting?
Sure. Yes, let's do that.
Are we into October, you think?
Yeah, I don't see anything pressing coming up unless, do you need to meet?
There may be a meeting, we're still trying to figure out when we'll get the first rec and the change order from the contractor, but there will be a meeting to go over all of that.
I
And
believe it's
assume-
be the end of the month.
Yeah, but that's just something to put on your radar.
Okay,
Might be too soon to have a formal board meeting as part of it, but.
But maybe we should try to do something in the first half of October to be prepared to, if we have to take an action on that change order. Does that make sense to you, or?
I think if they get a meeting together and the both of you come, it could be a published meeting for the water and sewer board, since you could both be there as a quorum.
Just to go over the change order.
Okay.
And the first rec that comes in from the
Because
contractor.
we want you to be able to deliberate on it rather than just sit there and not have it published as a board meeting.
Right, but as a process, is it proper for us to deliberate?
If
On-
it's a published meeting, you have every right to, chime in on the conversation for sure. It's all about.
How much money is this going to be?
We're not sure. It could be anywhere between 25 and 50,000.
Okay. That sounds like, it sounds like a scope and a number that Christian and I have, we've done a lot of it.
Managed our
So
way through.
we can, it can be presented. It sounds like something that if it's presented and especially if we have the facts ahead of time,
Right.
then
And
it's
that would be
presented.
distributed beforehand. And then
That'd be helpful.
speed
So
up.
then we can get,
And then if only one of you come to the meeting, then it doesn't have to be published as a board meeting.
no, but for it to be actionable, especially if they need to get paid, you want to keep the pace going. This is going to happen in September. So I think we probably need to be on standby.
Yeah, that's fine. But let's just schedule our next regular meeting, and
Okay.
if this one comes up, we'll
Yeah, we'll come in.
do our best to accommodate it.
Mondays are bad for you.
Yep.
Tuesday, 5th?
Tuesday the 5th would probably work. Yep.
It will not be around Tuesday the 5th. I have a doctor's procedure,
Okay.
but I can send a representative if you want to meet that day.
Well, let's pick a day when Mo's available.
Yeah, okay.
That way we can give him a hard time directly instead of having to do it through his lieutenant.
7th?
What about the 7th, Mo? Does that work for you?
Yep, that works for me.
Morning?
Morning is good, yeah.
Do you want to meet at the DPW garage?
Sure. 8:30?
8:30? DPW garage.
Cool. Okay. Any other motions?
I can make one final motion.
Love to hear it.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.